I just figured out actually this year, that was 40 years ago, my dad first took me fishing for the summer. So he retired last year, he turned 75 and said, that's enough. It makes me think about how the labor and the seasons and the way of life of fishing has changed with technology, in some ways for the better, in some ways, in some things we've definitely lost. And the people, though, that worked the industry were, of course, traditional people from here and the immigrants, different immigrant groups, populations. Early Japanese became gill netters. There were Finnish trollers. There were Norwegian colonies on Calvert Island. And the companies did their absolute best to keep people racially divided and play it against each other. The motto was really, up till about the 1970s, was catch all you can and can all you catch, right? Yeah. You knew it was going in a can and it was going to Europe, and that's how you treated the fish. I started fishing with my father in the 1970s, and people were still paid in scrip money. I mean, you hear about the scrip money, like stamps. You hear about this from like Virginia coal mines. You owe everything to the company store. I can remember delivering fish and getting a set of coupons that said for fuel or for food. And of course, I was interested to hear about how these nets, these would not break down because of the nature of the fiber, but a linen net would break down and rot if you didn't dump it in a big vat of bluestone, copper sulfate. Nobody has a copper sulfate vat in their backyard, I hope. So these would be owned by the companies. So you couldn't have a net and fish if you didn't have a company that was helping you. And they were company netmen and net sheds and the company stores. And of course the boats that people fished and the boats that even I fished on were small. Gas engines had fuel for a couple of days. You needed to fuel them up. You needed to do all kinds of things. The trollers were more independent from the beginning because they fished closer to the markets and they could sell into the fresh market. But everybody else, we sold to these companies and we had to. And they kept it that way on purpose, sometimes making the laws that you couldn't have a drum on your boat or a motorized boat beyond a certain point up the coast. So you had to get towed there by the companies that live in their bunkhouses and things. And slowly, nylon nets came along, and they didn't need to go in a copper sulfate tank, and you could keep your own if you wanted, but you still use the company net because you needed to. But then you might put a diesel engine in your boat, and maybe you only need to fuel up every few weeks, so you were a little bit more independent. I didn't understand it at the time, but when I was 8 years old, I witnessed a labor war, and there were a lot of good reasons for it. The shore workers weren't getting paid much, the netmen weren't getting paid enough, the tendermen. It came back to me. I ended up studying the history of the fishing industry because I wanted to know what the hell happened. And it was really about the change of technology that had happened that allowed people more independence. We say we love fishing, but it's also hard work. Some of it's drudgery. And then you had people that were really thinking independent, trying to be like the trollers, trying to break free. Some of the technology it led to a greater ability to extract too many fish too fast, and you really had to watch it. And in other cases, it just took the worst of the drudgery out of it, or gained a little bit of independence. So it was always, give and take to it. The other thing that happened is we watched the trollers, and we figured out that they had a pretty good gig going on selling fresh fish. And we learned to start carrying ice. And we realized that people were willing to pay an average fair price if they knew it was going to the right place. But also to people that are fishing sustainably, to families that care, that want to stay in it. Skipper Autos, it's community-supported fishery. And there are lots now, but we're proud to have been the first in the West Coast. Anybody that has a desire to support and keep independent fishing going the way people support independent farmers and want to keep them going can join our organization and then buy your share of fish for the year, however much you think you're going to use. And so we now have about 1,200 members in BC, and you can come and pick up your fish at the Fisherman's Wharf every Thursday or Saturday.